Behold, this is the end of resistance.
In the vast expanse of the cosmos, where light and shadow intertwine, epic tales await discovery. Are you ready to embark on a thrilling journey, confront untold dangers, and unveil the chilling secrets of the galaxy? Join me now as we step into the age of the Deathworlders, a science fiction saga that will keep you on the edge of your seat from start to finish. If you love incredible adventures, epic battles, and discoveries that change everything, don't hesitate to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss a single chapter. Now, take a deep breath and listen closely. Our story begins now. The emergency signal tore through space like a scream in the dark. Commander Kale, his four-fingered hand scarred from countless battles, pressed against the control panel of his damaged flagship. Red warning lights pulsed relentlessly across the bridge. The Astral Concorde's greatest warship was dying, and with it, perhaps the last hope of the Galactic Defense Alliance. Commander, we've lost contact with the defense fleet at Naxus Delta, reported Lieutenant Lyra from the communication station. Her emerald-skinned face showed the exhaustion that had become common among all Alliance forces over the past 3 months. The Scourge has breached our energy shields. Kale closed his large, dark eyes for a moment. 3 core worlds. 3 entire civilizations consumed by the insectoid nightmare that had emerged from the galactic rim. The Scourge moved like a plague across space, their bioships multiplying faster than the Alliance could destroy them. Every energy weapon they possessed seemed useless against the creature's adaptive armor. How many functional vessels do we have left? Kale asked, though he feared the answer. 17 across all fleets, Commander. The Cygnus Legion lost their entire battle group at Xylos 9. The Forlag Defense Force retreated after losing 80% of their fleet. 17 ships. The Alliance had started this war with over 4,000 vessels. Now they faced an enemy that grew stronger with each world they consumed, each species they absorbed into their collective. Kale walked to the main display screen, where the tactical map showed crimson markers spreading like an infection across Alliance space. The Scourge moved in perfect coordination, their bioships working together as if controlled by a single, malicious mind. No individual ship was particularly powerful, but their numbers were endless. Sir, incoming transmission from Admiral Xylan of the combined fleet, the communications officer announced. The holographic image of Admiral Xylan appeared on the bridge. The Caltran leader's usually proud bearing was gone, replaced by desperate exhaustion. His crystalline skin had lost its natural glow, and his telepathic diadem barely flickered with energy. Kale, we need to evacuate Naxus Delta immediately, Xylan said without greeting. The Scourge has landed ground forces. Our energy weapons cannot penetrate their bioarmor at close range. The civilian population. How long do we have? Kale interrupted. Hours, maybe less. The planetary defense grid is down. Our ground forces are retreating to the capital city, but they cannot hold. We need reinforcements, Kale. We need them now. Kale looked around his bridge. His crew worked quietly at their stations, trying to repair systems that had been damaged in their last encounter with the Scourge. They all knew the truth that neither commander wanted to speak aloud. There were no reinforcements coming. I will send our emergency beacon to all Alliance worlds, Kale said finally. Perhaps someone will answer. Xylan's image nodded grimly before disappearing. Kale turned to his communications officer. Send a priority distress signal on all Alliance frequencies. Tell them we need immediate military assistance at Naxus Delta. Tell them. He paused, searching for words that might convince anyone to help them. Tell them this is our last stand. The signal went out across the galaxy, carrying the Alliance's desperate plea to every member world. It traveled through the vast emptiness of space, reaching worlds that had already fallen, worlds that were preparing their own defenses, and worlds that had never heard of the Scourge threat. Captain Thorne was checking cargo manifests in the belly of his ship when the message reached him. The Stellar Drifter was 3 days out from Terranova, carrying mining equipment and medical supplies to the Outer Rim colonies. It was routine work for a routine crew on a ship that had seen better decades. "Captain, you need to hear this," called Engineer Jackson from a bridge. Thorne climbed the narrow ladder that connected the cargo bay to the ship's upper levels. The bridge of the Stellar Drifter was cramped and functional, filled with displays that showed the ship's various systems in green and amber lights. "What is it, Jackson?" "Emergency transmission, sir. Alliance frequency. They're asking for military help." Thorne frowned. Terranova had joined the Galactic Defense Alliance only 2 years ago, and most member species still treated humans as newcomers. The Alliance had been polite but distant, accepting Terranova's membership, while making it clear they considered human technology primitive. "Play it back," Thorne ordered. The message filled the bridge speakers with static and desperation. Commander Kale's voice described the Scourge threat, the fallen worlds, the millions of lives already lost. The Alliance's most advanced fleets had been destroyed. Their energy weapons were useless. They needed help from anyone who could provide it. Thorne stared at the star charts displayed on his navigation screen. Naxus Delta was marked in red now, indicating an active threat zone. According to the message, entire civilizations were being consumed by some kind of insectoid army that adapted to every weapon used against it. "Sir, what do we do?" asked Navigator Anya from her station. Thorne had served in Terranova's Merchant Marine for 15 years. Before that, he had spent 8 years in the Terra Navy. He knew military protocol, and he knew that civilian vessels like the Stellar Drifter had no business getting involved in galactic wars. He also knew that people were dying. "Jackson, can you boost our transmission power?" "Sure, Captain. How far do you want to reach?" "Terranova Command. I want to reach Terranova Command directly." Engineer Jackson worked at his controls for several minutes, rerouting power from the ship's cargo bay lights and non-essential systems. The Stellar Drifter was not built for long-range communications, but Jackson had been modifying ship systems for 20 years. "You're connected, Captain. Direct channel to Terranova Command." Thorne activated the communication system and spoke clearly into the transmitter. "Terranova Command, this is Captain Thorne of the merchant vessel Stellar Drifter. I am forwarding a priority distress signal from the Galactic Defense Alliance. They are requesting immediate military assistance. Multiple worlds have fallen to an unknown enemy force. Please advise." The response came faster than Thorne had expected. A crisp military voice answered within minutes. "Stellar Drifter, this is General Alera at Terranova Command. We have received your transmission and the Alliance distress signal. Please maintain communication silence while we assess the situation." Thorne waited. Around him, his crew worked quietly, understanding that something important was happening, but not sure what their role might be. The merchant ship continued its journey through space while Terranova Command reviewed the Alliance's desperate plea. When General Alera came back on the channel, her voice carried a different tone. "Captain Thorne, please relay the following message to Alliance forces. Terranova Command is dispatching the 3rd Terra Marine Battalion and the 7th Fleet to provide assistance. Estimated arrival at Naxus Delta in 72 hours. Tell them to hold their positions." Thorne felt his breath catch. The 7th Fleet was Terranova's largest military formation, and the 3rd Marines were among humanity's most experienced combat units. Terranova Command was committing significant resources to help species that most humans had never heard of. "Understood, Terranova Command. I will relay your message immediately." Thorne opened a channel on Alliance frequencies and broadcast Terranova's response. Somewhere in the darkness of space, alien commanders would learn that help was coming from the newest, most primitive member of their alliance. They had no idea what they had just asked for. Admiral Xylan stood on the observation deck of the Alliance command station, watching the blue-green planet of Naxus Delta spin slowly below. Black smoke rose from dozens of impact sites across the surface where Scourge bio ships had landed. The insectoid invaders were spreading like a disease through the major cities, consuming everything in their path. "Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting incoming vessels," reported Commander Torvin from the tactical station. The young Caltran officer's crystalline skin flickered with nervous energy. Unknown configuration approaching from Vector 77, Mark IV. Xylan moved to the main display screen. Show me. The tactical display revealed 15 ships moving toward Naxus Delta at standard Alliance speed. The vessels were strange, angular things made of metal and ceramic instead of the bioorganic materials most advanced species preferred. They looked primitive, almost crude compared to the flowing lines of Alliance warships. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the lead vessel," announced the communications officer. They identify themselves as the Terran 7th Fleet. Xylan felt a moment of confusion. Terran? Those are the humans, yes? Yes, sir. The species that joined the Alliance 2 years ago. Their homeworld is classified as primitive by the Cultural Assessment Board. Xylan remembered the humans vaguely. Terranova had been granted Alliance membership mostly as a diplomatic gesture, despite their crude technology and backward social development. Their representatives had seemed harmless enough, though there was something unsettling about their forward-facing eyes and their tendency to show their teeth when pleased. "Put them through," Xylan ordered. The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of the human flagship. A human male in military uniform looked out at them. His face was harder than Xylan remembered from the diplomatic meetings, with scars visible on his jaw and neck. Behind him, other humans worked at control stations that seemed to use physical buttons and switches instead of the mental interfaces favored by civilized species. "This is Colonel Elias of the Terran Marine Corps," the human said in the harsh, guttural language humans called English. The universal translator converted his words with a slight delay. "We received your distress signal. What do you need us?" Xylan studied the human commander. Elias had the same unsettling forward-facing eyes as all his species, but there was something else there, a calmness that seemed out of place given the desperate situation they faced. "Colonel Elias, I am Admiral Xylan of the Alliance Defense Force. We appreciate your response, but I must warn you that the situation is extremely dangerous. The Scourge forces have already destroyed our most advanced battle fleets. Their bio-armor adapts to our energy weapons within minutes of first contact." Elias nodded. "Understood, Admiral. How many enemy forces are we facing?" Ground estimates suggest over 50,000 individual Scourge drones across the planet's surface, with an unknown number still aboard the bio-ships in orbit. Each drone stands approximately 8 feet tall, with natural weapons that can cut through our strongest alloys. Any air support? The Scourge uses flying creatures approximately the size of our fighter craft. They move in coordinated swarms and have proven immune to our plasma weapons. Elias turned to speak with another human on his bridge. Their conversation was too quiet for the translator to pick up. When he faced the screen again, his expression had not changed. "Admiral, we're going to begin landing operations immediately. My Marines will establish a beachhead around the capital city, while our fleet provides orbital support." Xylan felt his crystalline skin darken with concern. These humans clearly did not understand what they were facing. "Colonel, with respect, your people may not be equipped for this type of combat. The Scourge is unlike any enemy the Alliance has encountered. Perhaps it would be better if you remained in orbit and provided logistical support." Something flickered in Elias's eyes that made Xylan step back from the screen for just a moment. The human looked like something that belonged in the nightmare story Xylan had heard as a child. "Admiral, my Marines are ready for combat. We'll be on the ground in 2 hours." The transmission ended, leaving Xylan staring at a blank screen. Around him, the Alliance bridge crew worked quietly, preparing for what many believed would be their final battle. 2 hours later, Xylan watched through long-range sensors as the human fleet began launching objects toward the planet's surface. The Alliance tactical computers identified them as simple kinetic projectiles, chunks of metal accelerated to high velocity by chemical explosives. "Admiral, the humans are bombarding the planet with primitive weapons," reported Commander Torvin. "They appear to be using solid projectiles rather than energy weapons." Xylan shook his head. These humans were even more backward than he had thought. Kinetic weapons had been abandoned by most civilized species thousands of years ago. They were crude, inefficient, and caused unnecessary destruction to planetary infrastructure. The first human landing craft descended through Naxus Delta's atmosphere 30 minutes later. They were simple metal boxes with chemical rockets, nothing like the elegant anti-gravity vessels used by Alliance forces. Xylan watched as dozens of these crude transports landed in the ruins of the capital city, directly in the middle of the largest Scourge concentration. "Sir, Alliance ground forces are reporting contact with human military units," the communications officer announced. "The humans are advancing directly toward the Scourge positions." Xylan activated his personal communicator. "Commander Kale, what is your status?" Kale's voice crackled through the speaker, punctuated by the sound of weapons fire. "Admiral, the humans have landed in Sector 7. They are moving toward the main Scourge concentration on foot. I have tried to warn them about the drone swarms, but There was a pause, filled with more weapon sounds. "Admiral, you need to see this." The main display switched to a ground-level view from one of Kale's reconnaissance drones. Xylan watched in fascination as human soldiers advanced down a street filled with rubble and abandoned vehicles. They moved in small groups, each human carrying what appeared to be a primitive projectile weapon. The Scourge drones emerged from behind buildings and out of sewer tunnels, just as they had when they overwhelmed Alliance ground forces. 8-foot-tall insectoid creatures with razor-sharp claws and bioarmor that could deflect energy weapons. They moved with coordinated precision, surrounding the human soldiers from multiple directions. Xylan expected to see the humans retreat, as any sensible species would when faced with such odds. Instead, the humans did something that made Xylan question his understanding of galactic biology. They charged. The human soldiers ran directly toward the Scourge drones, their weapons firing rapid bursts of solid projectiles. The primitive bullets struck the bioarmor that had proved immune to Alliance plasma weapons, and the armor cracked. Pieces of chitin flew through the air as the kinetic rounds punched through biological defenses that had seemed invincible. But that was not the most disturbing part. The most disturbing part was watching the humans themselves. These creatures moved like predators. They split into groups without verbal communication, flanking the Scourge drones with tactical precision that suggested millions of years of evolutionary hunting behavior. When Scourge creatures struck back with their natural weapons, the humans absorbed impacts that should have killed them and continued fighting. Xylan watched one human soldier take a claw strike across his chest that would have killed any Alliance species. The human stumbled, looked down at his torn uniform and bleeding wound, and then shot the Scourge drone in what Xylan assumed was its head. "Commander Kale," Xylan said quietly into his communicator, "what exactly are these humans?" "I don't know, Admiral," Kale replied, "but they are winning." On the tactical display, red markers representing Scourge positions began disappearing as human forces advanced through the city. The primitive projectile weapons that Alliance scientists had dismissed as crude and ineffective were systematically destroying an enemy that had seemed unstoppable. Xylan realized that Terranova's classification as a primitive world might need to be reconsidered. Dr. Eris stepped off the human transport shuttle and immediately began coughing. The air on Naxus Delta was thick with smoke and dust from the ongoing battle. Around him, Alliance medical staff rushed to treat wounded soldiers from both human and alien forces. Admiral Xylan approached the human doctor, his crystalline skin flickering with curiosity and concern. "Dr. Eris, thank you for coming. We have many questions about your species." Eris adjusted his medical scanner and looked around the makeshift command center. Alliance officers worked at their stations while human soldiers moved through the area with casual confidence. The contrast was striking. The aliens moved carefully, as if the damaged environment might harm them at any moment. The humans acted like they belonged in a war zone. "What would you like to know, Admiral?" Eris asked, opening his portable medical kit. "Your soldiers," Xylan began carefully. "They're different from what we expected. The Scourge drones that have been killing our forces seem unable to effectively combat your people. How is this possible?" Dr. Eris smiled, showing his teeth in the human expression that many Alliance species found disturbing. Admiral, has anyone explained to you what kind of world Terranova is? Your planet is classified as primitive by our cultural standards, Xylan replied. Limited technology, tribal conflicts, crude energy systems. That's not what I mean, Eris said. He activated a holographic display from his medical scanner. I mean the biological classification. Terranova is rated as a Class 12 death world by galactic standards. Commander Kale, who had been listening nearby, stepped closer. Death world? What does that mean? Eris's display showed images of Terranova's surface. Mountains covered in ice and snow, deserts where temperatures reached deadly extremes, oceans that could crush most life forms under their pressure. It means that Terranova is actively trying to kill everything that lives on it. The weather, the animals, the plants, the diseases, even the air pressure changes can be fatal to most galactic species. Xylan studied the images with growing alarm. Your people evolved on this world. Not just evolved, Admiral. We thrived. Humans spread across every continent, every climate zone, every environment that Terranova could create. We learned to survive in places where the temperature drops low enough to freeze most biological fluid solid. We learned to live at altitudes where there is barely enough oxygen to breathe. We swim in water that would crush your bones and climb mountains just for entertainment. Kale's emerald scales darkened with concern. Entertainment. Oh yes, Eris continued, clearly enjoying the alien reactions. Humans engage in activities for fun that would be considered extreme survival training by most species. We jump out of aircraft for pleasure. We climb vertical rock faces without safety equipment. Some humans run for over 26 miles without stopping just to see if they can. Eris switched his display to show Terranova's wildlife. Images of massive predators with razor-sharp teeth, venomous creatures smaller than a finger that could kill in minutes, and insects that could strip flesh from bone in hours. These are some of the creatures that humans evolved alongside, Eris explained. We shared our world with predators that make your Scourge drones look gentle. The average human child learns to identify dozens of plants and animals that could kill them before they reach adult age. Admiral Xylan felt his telepathic diadem flickering with distress. How do your people survive? We adapt, Eris said simply. Human immune systems are designed to fight off diseases that would kill most galactic life forms in hours. Our bones are dense enough to withstand impacts that would shatter other species. Our muscles and cardiovascular systems are built for endurance hunting, chasing prey across vast distances until it collapses from exhaustion. A commotion outside the command center interrupted their conversation. Through the doorway, they could see human soldiers working on some kind of equipment. Sergeant Valerius was connecting Alliance energy weapons to human projectile systems, creating hybrid devices that no engineer from either species had designed. What is he doing? Kale asked. Improvising, Eris replied. Humans are very good at taking existing technology and modifying it for new purposes. We call it making do or jury-rigging. It comes from millions of years of using whatever tools were available to survive. They watched as Valerius tested his modified weapon. The device fired an Alliance energy beam wrapped around a human kinetic projectile. When it struck a piece of Scourge bioarmor, the armor didn't just crack, it disintegrated. Xylan turned back to Eris. Your people created that weapon in what, an hour? Probably less, Eris said. Valerius is trained as a combat engineer, but most humans learn basic mechanical and technical skills as children. We have to. Our world doesn't provide anything easily. Every tool, every shelter, every source of food or water has to be taken from an environment that's actively hostile. A human medic approached, carrying a stretcher. On it lay Private Theron, who had been exposed to a Scourge bioweapon during the morning's fighting. Alliance medical staff had pronounced him dead after scans showed the alien toxin in his bloodstream. Theron sat up on the stretcher and looked around. Doc, can I get back to my squad? I feel fine. Eris scanned Theron with his medical equipment, while Xylan and Kale watched in shock. The Scourge bioweapon was still in the human system, but his body was neutralizing it faster than it could cause damage. How is he alive? Kale whispered. Human immune system, Eris explained. We evolve on a world where deadly toxins are common. Snake venom, plant poisons, bacterial infections, viral diseases. The human body is essentially a biological warfare laboratory, constantly fighting off threats that would kill most species instantly. Theron stood up and stretched. Thanks, document. I'll try to avoid getting poisoned again. As the private walked away, Xylan grabbed Eris's arm. Doctor, how many humans are there on Terranova? About 8 billion. And how many are in your military? Eris thought for a moment. Active military forces? Maybe 50 million across all branches and planetary colonies. Xylan did the calculation in his head. The human military represented less than 1% of their total population. If the soldiers they were seeing represented such a small fraction of humanity, what was the rest of their species capable of? Dr. Eris, Kale said slowly, when your people applied for Alliance membership, why didn't you explain what kind of species you were? Eris looked genuinely confused by the question. We did. We provided complete biological and environmental data about Terranova and human capabilities. It was all in our application. But your planet was classified as primitive. Technologically, yes, Eris agreed. We're newcomers to space travel and energy weapons. But biologically, he gestured toward the human soldiers moving through the command center. We're exactly what evolution creates when it spends millions of years trying to build the perfect survivor. Outside, the sounds of battle continued as human forces pushed deeper into Scourge territory. Alliance soldiers who had been retreating for months were now advancing alongside their human allies, watching in amazement as creatures they had feared proved unable to effectively fight against Deathworld predators. Xylan realized that the Alliance had made a fundamental error in their assessment of humanity. They had judged the humans by their technology and missed the far more important factor. Terranova had spent millions of years creating the perfect soldiers, and humans didn't even realize how unusual they were. The main Scourge bioship hung in orbit above Naxus Delta like a massive organic tumor against the stars. Commander Kale watched it through the Alliance Command Center's main display, knowing that somewhere inside that living vessel was the Scourge Queen, the creature that controlled every drone on the planet below. Admiral, human forces are requesting permission to board the Scourge ship, reported Lieutenant Lyra from the communication station. Admiral Xylan turned from the tactical display, where he had been watching human ground forces systematically destroy Scourge positions across 3 continents. In 12 hours, the humans had accomplished what Alliance forces had failed to do in 3 months of fighting. Board the ship, Xylan asked. That's suicide. The bioship's interior is filled with toxic atmosphere. The temperature inside reaches levels that would kill most life forms, and there are thousands of Scourge drones protecting the Queen. Sir, the human commander says they have a plan. Xylan activated his communicator. Colonel Elias, this is Admiral Xylan. I cannot authorize a boarding action on the Scourge ship. The environment alone would kill your people within minutes. Elias's voice came through the speaker with the same calm tone he had used since arriving. Admiral, my people are equipped for hostile environment operations. We've done this kind of mission before, against enemy ships, against worse things. We're launching in 30 minutes. Xylan looked at Commander Kale, who could only shake his head in amazement. These humans seemed to view impossible missions as routine operations. Lieutenant Lyra led the boarding party of 20 human soldiers toward the Scourge bioship in 2 small attack craft. The Alliance had provided environmental suits designed for their own species, but the humans had modified them with typical human adaptability. They added extra oxygen tanks, reinforced the joints, and installed their own communication systems. Lyra, what's your status? Colonel Elias asked over the radio. Approaching the target, sir. The bioship surface is showing signs of defensive response. Through her helmet display, Lyra could see the Scourge ship's organic hull rippling and changing color as it detected their approach. Defensive spines began growing from the surface, and weapon ports opened like infected wounds. "Defensive fire incoming," reported Sergeant Ronan from the second craft. The Scourge ship began shooting streams of corrosive bioplasma at the human attack craft. Lyra watched the energy beams pass close enough to her ship to melt the outer hull plating. Any Alliance pilot would have retreated at this point, calling the mission impossible. Lyra increased her speed and flew directly at the largest weapon port. "Lyra, what are you doing?" Elias's voice crackled through the radio. "Creating an entrance, sir." The human attack craft slammed into the Scourge ship's weapon port at full speed. The organic opening collapsed around the small vessel, creating a tunnel through the bio ship's defensive systems. Lyra and her team emerged from their damaged craft wearing full environmental suits and carrying enough firepower to level a small building. The interior of the Scourge ship was like walking inside a living nightmare. The walls pulsed with alien circulatory systems. The floor was covered in a substance that felt like walking on raw meat. The air was thick with spores and toxins that would have killed most galactic species instantly. "Temperature is reading 200 degrees, reported Private Theron through his suit radio. "Atmospheric composition is 90% methane with trace amounts of sulfur compounds." "Suits holding?" Lyra asked. "So far, Lieutenant, though I'm getting some readings that suggest the local bacteria are trying to eat through our equipment." Lyra smiled inside her helmet. Terranova's military had trained for operations in environments ranging from the deepest ocean trenches to the surface of active volcanoes. A Scourge bioship was unpleasant, but it wasn't the worst place humans had fought. The team moved deeper into the ship, following passages that seemed to grow and change around them. The Scourge ship was alive in ways that Alliance technology couldn't match. It adapted to their presence, trying to block their path or channel them into defensive positions. The humans adapted faster. Sergeant Ronan used explosive charges to blow through walls that tried to close around them. Private Theron identified weak points in the ship structure by comparing it to biological systems he had studied in Terranova's military training. Lyra navigated through the changing passages by using skills that humans had developed over millions of years of hunting in complex environments. They reached the ship's core in less than an hour. The Scourge Queen was waiting for them. She was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the largest Scourge drone, with psychic abilities that had driven Alliance soldiers insane during previous encounters. Her presence filled the chamber with telepathic pressure that felt like standing next to an active volcano. She attacked their minds immediately. The psychic assault struck the human soldiers like a physical blow. Lyra felt the alien intelligence trying to tear apart her consciousness, flooding her thoughts with images of death and despair. The Scourge Queen had broken the minds of every Alliance soldier who had faced her. Human minds were different. Lyra pushed back against the psychic attack, using mental disciplines that humans had developed through millions of years of surviving in hostile environments. The human brain evolved to handle extreme stress and life-threatening situations. It didn't shatter under pressure. It focused. "Plant the charges," Lyra ordered through gritted teeth. Her team moved through the chamber while the Scourge Queen continued her psychic assault. Theron placed nuclear charges around the ship's core systems while Ronan and the others established a defensive perimeter. The human soldiers fought through telepathic attacks that would have killed most species, treating the mental assault as just another environmental hazard to overcome. The Scourge Queen realized that her psychic abilities were not affecting the humans as expected. She called for her drone guards, filling the chamber with dozens of 8-foot-tall warriors designed to protect her at all costs. The humans had been expecting this. Lyra's team opened fire with weapons that combined human kinetic technology with Alliance energy systems. The hybrid weapons tore through Scourge bioarmor like paper. The nuclear charges were set to detonate in 10 minutes, giving them enough time to fight their way back to their extraction point. "Charges are armed," Theron reported. 10 minutes to detonation. "Lyra, what's your status?" Colonel Elias asked over the radio. "Mission complete, sir. We're heading home." The team fought their way back through the changing passages of the bio ship, leaving behind a nuclear weapon that would destroy the Scourge Queen and the enemy's command structure. They moved with the efficiency of predators who had evolved to hunt in groups, covering each other's movements and adapting to every obstacle the ship placed in their path. They reached their extraction point with 3 minutes to spare. As the human attack craft pulled away from the Scourge bio ship, Lyra looked back at the massive organic vessel. In 60 seconds, it would be destroyed by technology that the Alliance considered primitive and barbaric. Nuclear weapons were banned by most civilized species as too dangerous for military use. Humans considered them standard equipment. A blinding explosion lit up the space around Naxus Delta like a news star. The Scourge Queen died instantly, and with her, the psychic connection that coordinated every Scourge drone in the system. On the planet below, thousands of enemy soldiers suddenly stopped moving, their collective intelligence severed. Admiral Xylan watched the explosion from the Alliance Command Center, finally understanding what Captain Thorne had meant when he said that Terranova was sending help. The humans hadn't just provided military assistance. They had brought the tools and techniques of a species that had survived on a world where everything was designed to kill them. The Alliance had asked for reinforcements and received something far more valuable. They had learned that the galaxy contained allies who viewed impossible missions as routine operations. The cleanup operations on Naxus Delta took 3 days. Admiral Xylan walked through the capital city, watching human soldiers work alongside Alliance forces to clear debris and search for survivors. The contrast between the two groups was impossible to ignore. Alliance troops moved carefully through the ruined streets, checking their environmental suits and monitoring their exposure to local hazards. The humans worked in simple uniforms, breathing the polluted air without concern. "Admiral, the final casualty reports are ready," Commander Kale said, approaching with a data pad in his hands. Xylan took the report and read through the numbers. Alliance forces had lost 60% of their remaining troops during the 3-day battle. The humans had lost less than 5% of their force, despite leading every major assault. "How is this possible?" Xylan asked quietly. "I have been studying their combat recordings," Kale replied. "The humans fight differently than any species I have encountered. They do not retreat when wounded. They do not panic when surrounded. They treat each battle as if their survival depends on winning." Xylan watched a group of human medics treating injured Alliance soldiers. The humans worked with efficient precision, using medical techniques that seemed primitive but proved remarkably effective. One medic, a striking woman with vibrant crimson skin and an alluring smile, was explaining to a Caltran officer how to treat infection using something called antibiotics. "Their medicine is also strange," Kale continued. "They use chemical compounds to fight disease instead of energy healing. Yet their methods work better than our advanced systems against Scourge bioweapons." Colonel Elias approached the 2 Alliance officers, carrying his helmet under one arm. His uniform was torn and stained from 3 days of combat, but he moved with the same calm confidence he had shown when first arriving. "Admiral Xylan, we need to discuss the remaining Scourge ships in this system," Elias said. Xylan consulted his tactical display. Long-range sensors show 7 bio ships retreating toward the outer planets. "Our remaining forces are not sufficient to pursue them." "My ships can handle it," Elias replied, "but I wanted to coordinate with your people first. This is Alliance space." Xylan stared at the human colonel. 7 Scourge bio ships represented enough firepower to destroy most planetary defense fleets. Elias was suggesting that 15 human vessels could handle them alone. "Colonel, perhaps it will be better to wait for additional Alliance reinforcements?" Elias smiled, showing his teeth in the expression that Xylan was beginning to understand meant genuine amusement rather than aggression. "Admiral, with respect, we've been fighting creatures like this for millions of years. The Scourge is dangerous, but they're not the worst thing Terranova has produced." "What could be worse than the Scourge?" Kale asked. "Humans," Elias said simply, "when we're really angry." 6 hours later, Xylan watched through long-range sensors as the human fleet engaged the retreating Scourge ships near the system's outer gas giant. The battle was over in less than 20 minutes. The human vessels used tactics that no Alliance strategist had ever considered, coordinating kinetic bombardments with energy weapons in patterns that overwhelmed Scourge defenses. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from Terranova Command," announced Lieutenant Lyra from the communication station. Xylan activated the main display, expecting to see another human military officer. Instead, he found himself looking at a human female in civilian clothing. She appeared older than the soldiers he had been working with gray hair and eyes that suggested extensive experience. This woman possessed a refined elegance, her posture radiating a quiet power. "This is Director Valerie of the Terranova Diplomatic Corps," the woman said. "I understand that our military forces have been assisting Alliance operations in your region." "Yes, Director Valerie. Your people have been extremely effective." Valerie nodded. "I'm calling to discuss the long-term implications of this cooperation. Terranova is interested in expanding our role within the Alliance, particularly in defense matters." Xylan felt his crystalline skin flicker with uncertainty. The humans had just demonstrated military capabilities that exceeded anything the Alliance possessed. If they wanted to expand their influence, there was very little anyone could do to stop them. "What kind of expansion are you considering?" Xylan asked carefully. "Terranova would like to establish joint training programs with Alliance military forces," Valerie explained. "We believe our experience with hostile environments and asymmetric warfare could benefit your people. In exchange, we would appreciate access to Alliance energy weapon technology and star charts for the Outer Rim territories." Xylan exchanged glances with Commander Kale. The humans were offering to teach Alliance forces how to fight more effectively in exchange for technology and information. It was a generous offer from a species that could probably take whatever they wanted by force. "Director Valerie, may I ask why Terranova is interested in the Outer Rim territories?" Valerie's expression became more serious. "Admiral, Terranova's long-range surveys have identified several other species that appear to originate from high-gravity, hostile environment worlds. We call them Deathworld species. Most of them are currently classified as primitive by Alliance standards. You want to contact them? We want to invite them to join the Alliance," Valerie said. "The galaxy is a dangerous place, Admiral. The Scourge was just one threat among many. Having more allies who understand survival and warfare could benefit everyone." Xylan considered this. The thought of more human-like species joining the Alliance was both exciting and terrifying. If other Deathworld species possess similar capabilities, the balance of power in the galaxy would shift dramatically. "How many of these Deathworld species have you identified?" Kale asked. 17 confirmed, with possible indicators of 12 more, Valerie replied. "Most of them are isolated on single worlds, dealing with local threats that would challenge even human forces. They could use allies." Xylan realized that the humans were not seeking to dominate the Alliance. They were trying to build it into something stronger, something capable of handling threats that energy weapons and advanced technology could not solve. "Director Valerie, Terranova's proposal is acceptable to Alliance Command," Xylan said. "We would be honored to learn from your people." After the transmission ended, Xylan stood in the command center looking out at the stars. 3 days ago, he had commanded a failing defense against an unstoppable enemy. Now, he was part of an alliance that included species capable of treating impossible missions as routine operations. Colonel Elias appeared beside him, still carrying his helmet and looking like he had just finished a training exercise rather than a galactic war. "Colonel, may I ask you something?" Xylan said. "Of course, Admiral. When your people received our distress signal, did you know what you were getting into?" Elias considered the question seriously. "We knew people were dying, and someone needed help. The rest was just details to work out." Xylan watched through the viewport as human ships moved through the system, conducting search and rescue operations for survivors on outer planets. These creatures from Terranova had traveled across the galaxy to help strangers fight an enemy they had never encountered, using weapons their own allies considered primitive. The Alliance had asked for reinforcements and received something unprecedented: partners who viewed the survival of others as their own responsibility. Xylan realized that the galaxy had just become a much safer place. And that concludes this chapter, and a much more dangerous one for anyone who threatened innocent life. We've journeyed together through the age of the Deathworlders had begun, seismic discoveries, and witnessed the raw, untamed power of the ultimate survivors. The story of the Alliance and their newfound allies is just beginning. The galaxy is changing, and even greater sagas await. If you enjoyed this epic journey, please show your support by liking this video, subscribing to our channel so you don't miss future tales, and sharing with friends so they can discover this universe too. Feel free to leave your comments below with your thoughts on the story. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more adventures to come. We'll see you in the next story.